Welcome back to Education Insights Daily. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Mack. In our last documentary, we explored the hidden toll of COVID on today's youth, disrupted schooling, remote learning gaps, and rising anxiety. Today, we're going deeper. I've pulled together a series of powerful clips that highlight what students, families, and experts are experiencing. We'll watch together, and then I'll share reflections. Let's begin with the most important voices. Students. This clip captures how teenagers look back on the pandemic and its effect on their mental health. Roll the clip now.
Playfulness and camaraderie all around at this robotics event. But if you strip just a few layers of what looks normal, you'll find remnants of one of the biggest health crises in recent history, the COVID-19 pandemic.
We now have this experience that was incredibly difficult for everyone, and now we're living with the after effects and the consequences.
The consequences are something Winnie Nathan is trying to leave behind, but the years of stringent health measures and precautions have left a mark on her.
During that time, it was very stressful, and I think I'm more scared of getting sick and spreading illness now. It's something that I'm much more concerned with now than before. And it's left a lot of uncertainty.
Not being able to be around friends was tough for Jamal Coleman.
I was able to talk to my friends a lot online, but then I realized that whenever I wasn't talking to them, I felt really alone.
While he's doing better, he says it's not all over. He's still struggling with negative feelings. Jamal is not alone.
What stood out is how universal the feelings of isolation were. These aren't abstract numbers. These are kids, real kids, processing loneliness, anxiety, and milestones. Their honesty reminds us of why mental health must be central in recovery plans. Next, let's talk about academics. The term learning loss has been everywhere, but this PBS NewsHour report shows just how deep the challenge really is. Roll the clip now.
Billions of dollars were funneled to school districts across the United States to help them make up for learning loss from the pandemic. But new research shows that even with that extra money, school districts are still struggling to close the gaps in reading, writing, and math that grew during the pandemic. Stephanie Tsai has more on these findings and where we go from here.
Amna, this research analyzed data from more than 6.5 million public school students in 3rd through 8th grades, comparing their academic gains from 2022 to 2023 with pre-pandemic years. The study authors estimate that most students would need, on average, an additional 4.5 months of math instruction and 4 months of reading instruction to catch up. I'm joined now by Karen Lewis, director of the Center for School and Student Progress and a lead researcher at NWEA, the organization that came out with this new study. Karen, thank you so much for joining the NewsHour. We know from previous, even recent research that public schools are having a tough time closing that learning gap that occurred during the pandemic. How does your study add to what we already know?
I think what's new about what we've learned in this most recent release of data is that up until this point, we had seen some positive signs that we were starting to have some progress towards recovery, albeit modest progress. So it's disheartening and disappointing that at the end of the 22-23 school year, we actually have backslid slightly, and the gaps between current achievement levels relative to pre-pandemic trends actually widened. And that's because students were making gains this year at below average rates.
One of the startling statistics in your analysis is you say the average 8th grader needs more than 9 months to catch up in math. That's a whole academic year. So what should schools be doing that they haven't been to make this happen?
I don't think it's necessarily that schools need to be doing things they haven't been. They just need to be doing more of what they are doing. What we're seeing here are levels of unfinished learning that will take many years to recoup. This isn't a strategy where we have one single silver bullet that's going to get us out of this mess. And it's going to be a matter of layering interventions that are evidence-based and being able to provide those in a longer time frame.
What kind of interventions are we talking about? And have those interventions been affected by the staffing shortages at schools that we've been reporting on since the pandemic?
The interventions all share in common that they're trying to add back in some of that instruction that was lost during the initial phase of the pandemic when schools shut down. So these are strategies like summer school or double dosing core instruction in reading and math. We also know that high dosage tutoring is a popular intervention that's happening right now. And all of those strategies rely on humans to deliver them. So you're right that staffing shortages really impede our ability to deliver these at scale. We also know that any one single intervention is not going to be enough to get kids where we want them to be. And it's a matter of layering these and coming up with a suite of resources to support kids.
That report makes it clear math scores in particular took the hardest hit. But notice the solutions: high intensity tutoring, extended learning time. And the takeaway: with the right support, these gaps don't have to be permanent. Now, of course, recovery isn't just about academics. Roughly 2 years ago, the former U.S. Surgeon General declared youth mental health a crisis, and he warned us about the role of social media. Let's roll the clip now.
For decades, there's been that Surgeon General's warning on packs of cigarettes. But this morning, for the first time, a new warning about something else: social media and what it means for kids' mental health.
Why now for this advisory?
We're issuing this advisory to sound the alarm.
Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says there's not enough evidence to show social media platforms are safe enough for kids and teens.
We see rates of depression and anxiety and suicide and loneliness going up among young people. And I'm concerned that social media is an important driver of that youth mental health crisis. This is the defining public health issue of our time, youth mental health.
Research shows 95% of teens are on social media. More than a third say they're on constantly. And teens spend an average of 3.5 hours each day on these kinds of apps, something research shows can double the risk of experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety.
The other day, my daughter came up to my wife and I and asked us if she could post a picture on social media.
How old is she?
My daughter is 5 years old. She's actually in preschool. But she's been hearing about this from her friends.
All of the big platforms require users to be at least 13 years old to create accounts. But nearly 40% of kids ages 8 to 12 say they've used social media too. Tech expert Max Stossel sees it in the conversations he's had in the past 6 years with more than 100,000 students, parents, and teachers.
When I started doing this work, I was getting the question, is 16 too young to give my kid a smartphone? Now I'm getting the question, is like third grade too young to give my kid a smartphone?
Stossel recommends 14, but ultimately the right age may be different for different families.
You are almost certain to get pushback from tech companies who say they're trying to protect kids. They have age limits in place.
I appreciate that the technology companies have taken some steps to try to keep kids safe, but it hasn't been nearly enough.
The Surgeon General thinks Congress can and should do more to regulate social media companies, the same way safety standards are in place for car seats, for example. And at home, the advisory recommends creating a family media plan together, implementing tech-free zones like at mealtimes, and partnering with other parents with similar philosophies for support.
What's at stake here is our kids and their future, plain and simple.
That clip is urgent. The crisis won't solve itself. It demands national attention, school-level investment, and family awareness. Now, social media, it connects kids, but it also amplifies pressure. Now let's shift from policy to practice. Families play a critical role in healing. This UNICEF video offers simple, everyday strategies parents can use. Roll the clip now. Notice how practical the advice is. Daily check-ins, creating routines, making time to talk. Small, consistent steps rebuild balance and security for children. Finally, let's zoom out on the community. Students don't heal in isolation. Clubs, sports, service projects, these all build resilience. This piece from Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center pulls it all together. Roll the clip now.
As adults, the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly taken a psychological toll on us. Therefore, imagine its mental impact on kids. So we're discussing the pandemic's effect on children's mental health and ways families can cope and adjust. Our guests, Dr. Jasmine Ganadpour and Dr. Stevie Puckett-Perez. Both are pediatric psychologists at Children's Health and assistant professors at UT Southwestern. Doctors, thanks to both of you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Well, first for you, Dr. Ganadpour, in a nutshell, to get us going here, what's been the pandemic's biggest effect on children's and families' mental health, would you say?
From a mental health perspective, we're seeing more depression, more anxiety, trauma, and eating disorder symptoms. That's my area. That's where I work. The children have had to deal with this really scary ordeal of the pandemic, and they weren't able to feel the safety and comfort of their regular schedules and routines. They were limited in their activities that previously could have been healthy coping skills, like seeing friends, playing sports, and going out. And so that's really increased a lot of mental health symptoms. And then also we're seeing adults have also lost access to their healthy coping activities because of the pandemic. So we're also seeing a lot more parents dealing with alcoholism and how that's impacting family stress.
Yeah, and I would add to that, that in my practice, I'm also seeing an increase in the anxiety, depression, and general mood and behavioral dysregulation for kids and in their families.
So continuing with you, Dr. Puckett-Perez, to backtrack for a brief moment, what are some of the factors that can contribute to things like anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders in children?
Yeah, so I would say, touching on what Dr. Ganadpour mentioned, a big factor is lack of certainty and insecurity. And so with this massive shift in just daily life and what kids do in their daily life, not knowing what's happening next, that is a big factor, that kind of unpredictable nature of life and not knowing about their own safety and what's coming next. And specifically that lack of routine, lack of predictable daily schedule, lack of coping outlets is a big one. Isolation is often a big one for kids. Feeling unsuccessful at some of the things that are expected of them, like the shift to virtual schooling, for example. Too much or too little stimulation. And we also have to think of, for some of these kids, for many of these kids, being impacted by loss of a loved one, loss of friends. That weighs in as well how much or how little anxiety and depression we're going to see in kiddos.
Yeah, and I would add that when we talk about where mental health disorders come from with our patients and families, we talk about both genetic factors and environmental factors that play a role. In eating disorders, we call it the perfect storm of biological, psychological, and social factors. So Dr. Puckett-Perez was just identifying some of those factors. You have a genetic predisposition, and then some sort of stressor or combination of stressors then causes the mental health symptoms. We remind parents that genetics are no one's fault. It's what you're born with, and you can't control it. And the pandemic has just been so full of so many kinds of stressors, from going from in-person school to virtual school, worries about getting sick or family members getting sick, job loss, food insecurity, increases in incidents of domestic violence and child abuse. So all of these factors have really played a role in the increase in mental illness.
The perspective is clear. Healing requires community, not just classrooms. Kids need trusted adults, safe spaces, and opportunities to reconnect. So what do we take away from today? Well, for one, student voices show the heartache. News reports highlight the gaps. Experts raise national alarms. But families and communities, they show us the solutions. Thank you for watching these clips with me. If you liked this episode, and if it helped you, please like, share, and comment with one idea your school or family can use right away. This has been Education Insights Daily. Together, let's turn empathy into action for the next generation.